Welcome back to Growth Without Barriers. I'm Andrew Sherman from Jones Day. I'm here with my co-host Karen Kerrigan from SBE Council. I want to thank AT&T for their support of this webcast for many, many years now. Well, Karen, they say the only thing certain in life are death and taxes. And as we come up on nearly 30 days away from the election and the debates coming up, probably, although it's been a toss-up, I would say that probably the number one issue in the differences among the candidates, the divisiveness of the debate has been around taxes and the role that taxes play in the various policies and path to economic recovery, in the impact that it may have on small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I know that you've been doing a lot of work in this area in terms of understanding clearly what are the differences between the Obama and Romney campaigns on the issue of taxes.
Right, and this issue is just heightened, in terms of its, visibility and people's concern and small businesses' concern about this issue because, again, of the pending tax cliff or fiscal cliff, and the fact that all the tax relief measures that were originally signed into law under President Bush and extended by President Obama, I might add, will expire at the end of this year because there is not this agreement between the two parties on what should be done, although the House did pass a one-year extension of all these tax items. You're right. I mean, taxes are a big issue for small businesses, particularly because of this uncertain environment. But the complexity of the system, but Andrew, overall, our tax system has become just really uncompetitive. Both in terms of individual rates and because of corporate rates. Around the globe, you have countries that are making major changes to their tax system, making those systems more investment friendly, making it more simple, making it less complex and less costly to pay taxes. So taxes are a big issue. And there is a distinct difference between the two parties on this. And
unfortunately, it's not only become an economic issue and a budget deficit issue, but lately the campaigns have turned into a social issue. Who should pay what, and more taxes on those that are successful. And while it's painful to talk about, many of our viewers, many entrepreneurs and small businesses are among the people that have worked very hard to become successful. They are also the most generous when it comes to philanthropy and community service. But it seems to be that the solution, at least of one of the campaigns, is to tax them more and tax them at higher rates and to collect more to solve the problem. And, all of us run businesses, and when we spend too much, we have two choices. We can either raise revenues or reduce costs. And it looks like, one of the camps is definitely in the raise revenues category.
Right. So we did a comparison of the where Obama stands on taxes and obviously where Romney, in his platform or his proposals on taxes, and it's different. I mean, there are similarities in the two, but there are some differences as well. I think from a small business perspective, there are some critical issues. One, the personal income tax being that most 94%. I forgot exactly. It changes. I think it's 93% last year. Of business owners pay taxes. As individuals. So that individual rate is really important to them.
Corporations or LLCs, these are all flow through for the owners of the companies.
So what the president would like to do is for that top rate, to go up back to 39.6% at the end of this year. And what passed the House is for a full extension, to keep that rate, at its current rate of 35%. But what Romney would do in his proposal, he would do an across-the-board 20% reduction in the individual tax rate. So that means you have bracket ranges from 8% to 28%. So we have a top rate of 28%, but if you add in the Medicare tax and top rate, it hits just over 30%. So that would be the Romney plan, to drop all the rates, including the top rate, down to 28%. In terms of the corporate income tax, I think there is bipartisan agreement that it is uncompetitive right now. We have the highest corporate income tax rate in the world. President Obama, he supports a top rate of 28%. It's currently 35%. He supports a top rate of 28%, where Mitt Romney supports a top rate of 25%. In terms of death taxes, you talked about, death and taxes, right? Well, the death tax combines the two together with a nice little hit at the end of your life. And we do have a 35% tax rate right now with an exemption level of just over $5 million. At the end of the year, the top rate would go to if the tax, if we don't extend, the current tax rate, it would hit, the top rate would be 55%, a 55% death tax rate with only a $1 million meager exemption. That is real. That is unacceptable. You may as
well just spend it all before you die. If so little is able to be passed on to your heirs, that's a ridiculous rate. I'm sorry, but that
it is. Well, here's what President Obama supports: a 45% tax rate with an exemption level of $3.5 million. Meanwhile, Mitt Romney supports a total repeal of the death tax. So there, on that one issue,
right, some of the other disparities, like the corporate tax, boy, that sounds like something they ought to be able to figure out.
Right. And both parties.
That delta is small, but you're right on something like
that, and the individual rates. I mean, you do have some differences. Here's another similarity that they have in terms of the R&D, or we're calling it the research and experimentation tax credit, not the research and development. I like the development better. It's hard to say the research and experimentation tax credit.
If they make the tax credit big enough, we'll get used to it, right?
Well, both of them support making that permanent. Doing some improvements to it and making it permanent, which is a good thing. In terms of capital gains taxes, another important issue from a small business perspective that impacts an investment.
And from the investors, exactly. Their companies.
So right now you do have a top rate of 15%, and what would schedule to kick in at the end of the year. Again, if we go over the tax cliff, you have a top rate of 20%. So what so Obama supports keeping the top rate at 20%, but also he would support giving a 0%, having a 0% rate for people that invest in small businesses, but they have to be qualified small businesses, meaning that it's incorporated. There's a 5-year holding period. I mean, people say, look, this is not going to be that great if you do have these types of...
It makes the terms of investment a little bit more oppressive, and then it might scare away an investor just to get the possibility of paying no taxes upon an exit event.
Whereby, the Romney plan would basically keep the top rate of 15% for high-income folks, but then below the $200,000 income for married filers and $100,000 for single filers, there would be a 0% capital gains rate. So those are just some of the things. If you go to the website at sbecouncil.org and click on where the candidates stand on taxes, you can see where they stand on the AMT, where they stand on expensing, where they stand on dividends, and a whole range of these different types of really critical issues that are important for small businesses, and where they're going to be next year.
Well, and if you're going to go into the booth in 30 days and make your vote in part based on the tax issue, be an informed voter, get a feel for where the real differences are, and then make an informed decision in the voting booth.
Right, and where the candidates stand will help you do that.